Stephen Hauschka to kick off on a beautiful night. And back deep, Ty Montgomery, a rookie out of Stanford. Lambeau Field rocking their home opener. And ready to get it going. The NFC champions against the Packers. And we start with a touchback. So Aaron Rodgers goes to work from the 20. Let's take a look at the Packers starters.
Aaron Rodgers, Butte Community College.
Eddie Lacy, Alabama.
Randall Cobb, Kentucky.
Devontae Adams, Fresno State.
James Jones, San Jose State.
Richard Rodgers, Cal Berkeley.
David Bakhtiari, University of Colorado.
Josh Sitton, Central Florida.
Corey Lindsley, The Ohio State.
TJ Lang, Birmingham Brother Rice.
Don Barclay, West Virginia Mountaineers.
Outstanding offensive line. Of course, one of the guys missing, Jordy Nelson, was hurt in preseason, underwent knee surgery, and that's the reason they brought James Jones back. As we start with a run, and Eddie Lacy, getting a hand on him is Bennett, so he can go no further than the 21-yard line. So the last time Aaron Rodgers threw an interception in this ballpark would be 2012. 418 consecutive passes at Lambeau without a pick.
It's almost hard to comprehend, isn't it?
It is. Lacy with no gain, so second down and 10. The Packers won the toss, so they have elected to receive. And on the opening drive, Rodgers is flushed out and then throws, extends the play, and Richard Rodgers makes the catch. Richard Rodgers, the tight end, played at Cal, and he's a little bit shy of the first down. It'll be third down.
Well, clearly Aaron Rodgers wanted to go to the right side, but it's that craftiness inside the pocket that gets it done so often.
And then they go no huddle real quickly. And Rodgers is going to go deep on 3rd and 1, and you have contact but no flag. Earl Thomas back there with Richard Rodgers. So Aaron looks around, no flags, 4th down and inches coming up.
I'm not sure what happened to Rodgers on the tail end of this route. He was running the right way, and then for some reason he flips the other way, and the ball really landed back over the other shoulder. I think just maybe a little case of nerves early on.
And Thomas got there coming over the top. Meanwhile, the Packers on 4th down and a half-yard send in the punting unit. Tyler Lockett is going to go back for Seattle, and already we've got a timeout taken on the field because they're working on Cliff Averill.
I think there was a challenge flag there.
Green Bay is challenging the ruling on the field that there were 11 players on the field on 3rd down. Timeout.
So Gene Steratore will take a look. He'll go under the hood, and we'll see about the challenge, whether it's a first down or not. Challenged by Green Bay. We think they're going to win this. Aaron Rodgers went to the line so quickly after that pass for Richard Rodgers. They had 12 guys on the field, as you can see. That's Averill trying to get off the field, and we saw him being attended to on the bench. But he's the 12th guy. Here comes the snap. He is still in bounds. He's offside anyway at that particular point. And McCarthy is sharp enough with his coaching staff to see that. And here comes the call.
It has been determined that Seattle had 12 men on the field at the time of the snap. The ball will be placed at the 34.5-yard line on the hash mark nearest Green Bay's bench. Green Bay will not be charged with its first timeout. The result is a 1st and 10.
So Pete Carroll going wild on the sidelines, but that was created by Aaron Rodgers getting the team up there so quickly that Seattle couldn't get the extra guy off the field.
You know, the bizarre part about the replay system is the guy who knows the least about it is typically the head coach, who has no idea, has no replay angle of anything.
But it was pretty clear when you saw it. That's what Steratore saw, and so it's a first down. And now Rodgers, who's so good on that hard count, you got a free play, so he goes deep downfield. That's Cobb, and Cobb takes the ball to the 45-yard line. So Aaron Rodgers, knowing he has a free play, what he does is he sends everybody downfield quickly. That time it's Cobb, first down.
Well, we saw this in the championship game. We've seen it throughout his career.
Offside. Defense, number 72. Penalty is declined. The result of the play, First down.
And it has been a major factor for Michael Bennett throughout the course of his career. He is one of the most dynamic players in the game, but he tries to jump the snap count, and Aaron Rodgers will take advantage tonight, and that will not be his first effort.
So at the 44-yard line, Rodgers dancing and looking downfield, and then throws it away. And of course, you remember in the Super Bowl, what people forget, I mean, you've got the Butler interception, but then New England had the ball at the 1-yard line, so there was a chance for Seattle maybe to create a safety or whatever, and it was Bennett who jumped offside, giving Seattle the extra, or New England the extra 5 yards.
Exactly right, and every backed-up quarterback's going to try and do the same thing. You would have thought that somebody would have been screaming, you know he's going hard count here, and they still jump.
Second down and 10. Now you've got James Starks in the backfield. They come up in the pistol formation, and Rodgers gives it to Starks, who's been around since 2010. And he is close to a first down. Let's take a look at the Seattle defense.
Michael Bennett, Ailey Taylor High School.
Ataba Rubin, Iowa State.
Brandon Mebane, Crenshaw High School.
Cliff Averill, Boilermaker.
Bruce Irvin, Almost Heaven, West Virginia U.
Bobby Wagner, D. Utah State. KJ Wright, Mississippi State.
Richard Sherman, Stanford.
Deshaun Shedd, Portland State.
Earl Thomas, DBU, Texas.
Kerry Williams, Washington.
Of course, the big absentee, Cam Chancellor, and we understand there's been no contact between the team and Chancellor for 12 days in terms of a contract. And Rodgers again with a penalty. Flag on the play, throws that one out of bounds.
Illegal use of hands, hands to the face, offense. Number 71, 10-yard penalty, replay, first down.
Left guard, that's Josh Sitton.
See right there, the hands to the face, just to the right, pretty easy to see. Good call by the officials, and even Sitton, I think, knew that he did it, tried to yank his hand out of there at the last second. Of course, we're already seeing now Aaron Rodgers moving around a bit. Was not able to do that because of injury in the championship game, and it certainly was a factor in the game that was so close.
For first and 20. Four-man rush, open underneath. Devontae Adams, second year out of Fresno State. He gets to the 33-yard line.
One of the interesting decisions for tonight is will Richard Sherman play in the slot or not? Typically he just stays wide left. Last week in the game he came in and played the slot receiver, did well doing that, but now he's back outside of Marcus Burley playing the slot.
And Lacey back in there, and the big bull is about a yard shy of the first down. He runs as hard as anybody. Of course, the guy on the other side, Marshawn Lynch, is very much like Lacey. 3rd and 1.
Powerful guys, and they're going to try and hit this seam right in here. Pull out and around, and when these two guys get to the secondary level, it is almost frightening. They are powerful, and DBs typically want no part.
Now they come up with a 3rd and 1 from the 25-yard line. It's a toss to Lacey to the outside, and Lacey gets spun down but appears to have the first down. Carroll wants it marked a little bit short of where they'll probably put it. KJ Wright makes the tackle. And the new defensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks after that first down. You'll take a look at him. Is one Chris Richard, who took over. The last 2 defensive coordinators became head coaches. Gus Bradley is now at Jacksonville, and Dan Quinn is with the 2-0 Atlanta Falcons.
Good job to have, huh?
Yeah. Put you in the spotlight.
It's pretty big to overcome that hands to the face call and pick up that first down.
So from 1st and 20 to 1st and 10 now at the 24-yard line. Was it Sitton again? King Steratore already had a busy 3.5 minutes.
Offense, 5-yard penalty, still first down.
And the new play caller for Green Bay, McCarthy's in his 10th season. He's called the plays for 9 years, but now he's turned that over to Tom Clements. been the quarterback's coach, been around a long time, and it is Clements with the chart and into the helmet of Aaron Rodgers. 1st and 15. Aaron throws downfield and incomplete. Intended there for Randall Cobb. Covered there by Marcus Burley. Their nickel back. It'll be 2nd down and 15.
Here's the new nickel guy we were talking about right here, and Marcus Burley does just a perfect job on this. Those inside fade routes from the slot, very difficult to cover, but you could see he cut off at the pass there, and on the other side, Richard Sherman, we know what you typically get with him. Don't expect a lot of balls thrown that way.
Starks for Lacey. They put him in motion in the slot now. Empty backfield, 5 wide. And Rodgers is going to begin to take off and then fire, and it's caught. Touchdown. James Jones with a flag down, but it's going to be offside against Seattle. James Jones, released by Oakland, released by the Giants in training camp. Signs with the Packers, scores 2 touchdowns last week, has a 3rd call back on a penalty, and scores here.
Defense number 72. Penalty is declined as a result of the play. Touchdown.
Effectively, that's a 30-yard play because of an offsides. Richard Sherman up here on the top side. Now, the Green Bay Packers, and we've seen it 1,000 times, whenever Aaron Rodgers knows he has somebody offsides, he's going to move around, he's going to take a shot down the field, and here it is, a simple jump offsides leads directly to that touchdown.
Already there have been more extra points missed in the NFL in 2 weeks than there were all of last season. The 33-yard extra point is good. 80 yards, 10 plays in 4:15, and Green Bay takes the early lead at Lambeau. So Green Bay takes the early lead. Nothing new for them at Lambeau. And Mason Crosby sends it 6 yards deep. This is Tyler Lockett, who's been sensational in preseason and even a run back last week. Flag comes in at the end of the play. Drafted out of Kansas State, and looks like the reincarnation of Devin Hester already. Well, there's Rodgers, who he created everything.
Return, holding, return team number 58. 10-yard penalty, 1st down Seattle.
Aaron Rodgers created the 2 offsides and the 12 men on the field.
Watch all these guys looking inside. The minute they see Michael Bennett jump off sides, they fully understand at that point they're taking off down the field. Now, what's Aaron going to do? He's going to move around. He's going to buy some time because he wants to take a deep shot. He wants to go for the whole thing. He knows it's a free play. Seattle cannot allow that to continue happening in this game against Aaron Rodgers.
After the penalty, backed up to the 10, so that's where Seattle begins. Little pass to the left side. Tyler Lockett makes the catch, and he is tackled by Sam Shields immediately. Wilson, 4th year in the league, one of 3 quarterbacks, 10,000 or more passing yards, 1,500 or more rushing yards in his first 50 games. This would be his 50th. Won the job as a starter. Played at North Carolina State, then had 1 more year of eligibility, and he spent that in this state at Madison for the University of Wisconsin, and already he has to take a timeout. So a rough start for the Seahawks on both sides of the ball. Let's take a look right now at the Seattle offense.
Russell Wilson from a whole pack of Badgers.
Marshawn Lynch, Oakland Ice City, California.
Derek Coleman, UCLA.
Doug Baldwin, Stanford.
Jermaine Kearse, Washington.
Jimmy Graham, the U.
Russell Okung, Oklahoma State.
Justin Britt, LHS, MIZ.
Drew Nowak, Western Michigan.
J.R. Sweezy, NC State.
Garrett Gilliam, Penn State.
The Seahawks were in danger of having 12 men in the huddle, and Wilson saw it, and that's why he took the timeout to avoid the penalty. So it's 2nd down and 10 from the 10-yard line. Crowd already in full throat. Here's Lynch. Loss of 2. B.J. Raji hurt most of last year. Big nose tackle makes the stop. 3rd and 12 upcoming.
I barely recognized B.J. Raji when I was watching him on tape. This looked like the guy that first came in the league, the guy that got 6 sacks or whatever it was. He got a lot of pressure last week. He's lighter. He's motivated because he sat out last year. And if he is back to form, he will be a huge asset this year.
Took care of the center, Drew Nowak, on that play. Of course, in the Jimmy Graham deal, they had to lose their center, and in that trade to New Orleans is Wilson now. Another timeout, I believe, was taken. Green Bay took this one. They did. So Green Bay took the timeout. All kinds of crazy stuff happening at the outset of the game.
Green Bay is charged with its first timeout. It will be a 30-second timeout.
You know, Chris, it's week 2. Nobody's going to the Super Bowl tomorrow morning, but you think ahead. And last year, because of the tiebreakers, that's why Seattle got home field. They had the same record as Green Bay, and what a difference that makes in January.
Yeah, and what Clay Matthews tell us, he said, come on, man, everybody's been trying to tell you guys all week this doesn't mean anything more. That one hurt last year, right? That one hurt. And this is an emotional crowd, an emotional fan base. And this team has come out here tonight, and you can feel it means just a little bit more, because you're talking about the team that went to the Super Bowl 2 straight years, and you're trying to get there. So you want to knock them off right here in your house.
Good start for the Packers on both sides of the ball. 3rd down and 12 now from the 8. Lynch. Wow. How's that for 3 defensive plays? Nick Perry makes the stop there. 4th and 15 from their own 5 now.
One thing that's always paramount when you play against Marshawn Lynch, you have to protect this cutback. You've got to seal this off on the backside, because that's where his big plays come from. There's Nick Perry sitting right there to make the play. It will be on the linebackers and those defensive ends to stop that cutback tonight.
John Ryan from the back of the end zone. Micah Hyde pulls for the fair catch on the Seattle side of the field. Here comes Rodgers from the Seattle 44. Last year, these two teams opened the season in Seattle, and at the end of the game, Richard Sherman was yawning because they didn't throw at him once. Then in the championship game, they threw at him twice. Completed 1 for 6 yards. Tonight, already thrown at once, the completion, the touchdown to Jones.
But the risk was very low, because it didn't matter what happened. Even if Richard Sherman made a play here, you just come back and mark off the 5-yard penalty.
He had the free shot. Did Rodgers, took advantage of it, and now he has the ball for the 2nd time tonight at the Seattle 44-yard line. Starks in the game. Kuhn is the fullback flanking Rodgers. And a little miscommunication back there, but Bennett can't get Starks. Here's a penalty flag again. We've already had a bunch of them. Mebane makes the tackle, and we'll hear from Gene Steratore once more.
Holding. Offense number 63. Penalty is declined. 2nd down.
That is the center, the 2nd-year man, Corey Linsley.
It's a very good offensive line, and I don't know exactly what's happening there, but we'll pay attention. Lacey getting a little work done, but James Stark certainly extremely capable. But this Green Bay offensive line, as good as there is, of course, we're going to keep an eye on tonight. The right tackle, Don Barclay, replacing Brian Balaga up front.
Retaping Eddie Lacy's ankle and foot from the 48 on 2nd and 14. That catch is made at the 45-yard line, and then going backwards is Devontae Adams. Burley makes the tackle. So Adams is a guy who began to emerge last year, made some big catches. 2nd-year player out of Fresno State, played there with Derek Carr, who led Oakland to a big win earlier today against Baltimore. Now he figures to be even more prominent in the absence of Jordy Nelson.
42-inch vertical jump. He was dunking at age 13.
3rd and 12. Four-man rush. They run a stunt up front. Rodgers able to get through it and around it and takes the ball to the 37. He's a little short of the first down. Bobby Wagner will make the stop. It's going to be 4th down and 3.
On the outside, it was close. John Barclay is going to take Averill right around, and Rodgers felt it just enough to step up and through. See what they're going to do here with this one.
Well, they're going to line up to kick the field goal, which would be 54 yards. Crosby certainly capable of that on a fairly windless night. And a 54-yard field goal attempt is good by plenty. 6:52 left in the opening quarter, and the Packers are up early, 10-0. Green Bay, Wisconsin. Beautiful night. Summer winds down. And Mason Crosby to put it in the air. 10-0 Packers. Lockett 7 yards deep. Great coverage. They take care of the rookie at the 13. Let's take a look at the Green Bay defense.
Michael Pennell, Colorado State. B.J. Raji, Boston College. Mike Daniels, Iowa.
Julius Peppers, North Carolina.
Clay Matthews, USC. Nate Palmer, Illinois State University. Mike Neal, Purdue University.
Casey Hayward, Vanderbilt.
Morgan Burnett, Georgia Tech.
Clint Dix, the University of Alabama.
Sam Shields, the U.
That defense coordinated by Dom Capers, who's been here with Mike McCarthy since 2009. So their first drive resulted in -5 yards. Now they start from the 13, and Lynch, and they take care of him again. They gang tackle him, and that's Clinton Dix coming up from his safety spot to lead the charge.
They're going to try and make you believe they're going to have 2 deep, but watch what happens. Comes right into the hole. You look like you've got all kinds of space right there, and there he is, Clinton Dix. Both these safeties played very well in that championship game. Of course, Clinton Dix had the 2 interceptions in that one. Morgan Burnett had what looked like was going to be the game-winning interception, even laid down on the play, and in hindsight, that was a bit of an oops.
2nd and 8. Now they put a fullback in the game. That's Coleman in front of Lynch. And the pass to the outside. That's a short gain only there to Coleman up to the 15-yard line. Maybe no gain at all. Burnett, who was hurt last week, back in the lineup, makes the tackle.
Yeah, and they were talking about Morgan Burnett and how important he is to this team. Not only can he play down and help against the run, but they say he is the structure of our defense. He's the guy that gets us all lined up, and we feel good about him. Remember, they've had a lot of shuffling at inside linebacker. Clay Matthews not used to being there. Nate Palmer there now for Sam Barrington. So very important piece on the back end.
Comes back from a calf injury that kept him out of the game in Chicago. It's 3rd and 8 from the 15. Wilson steps off the spot deep downfield, and the catch is made by Doug Baldwin, who got free in front of the Seattle bench. Big first down, their first of the night. A gain of 32 yards.
It's just a completely blown coverage. I think right here, I believe it's the only way that could happen. Sam Shields is going to fall on the underneath coverage. Maybe it's Casey Hayward that was supposed to stay with him, but it was very unusual, looking more like a zone. And against that look, you don't ordinarily see wide open players, just a blown coverage.
To the 47, first down. And Wilson, good protection that time, and that pass is incomplete, intended there for Jimmy Graham. First time he's been targeted. Sean Richardson covering. Of course, Jimmy Graham, a star in New Orleans ever since he came into the league, one of Drew Brees' favorite targets, and one of those, wacky off-season deals. You don't see that many in the NFL. It's not like baseball where you see a ton of them or any other sport. Very few big trades. But Max Unger went to New Orleans along with a first-round draft choice so they could get Jimmy to Seattle. 2nd and 10. And Wilson, who averaged about 8 yards a carry last season and gained more than 800 yards, close to a first down.
Well, and this is what we didn't see out of Russell Wilson in the game last week. And I think it's such an essential part of this offense, because when people start to crash down, if he doesn't run, that means Marshawn Lynch is going to get caught from behind, and it happened several times against the Rams. So it didn't surprise me early on here that Russell Wilson was going to pull one down and take off and run.
Gain of 10, first down at the Packer 43. And they bottle Lynch up again. Pennell makes the tackle. No gain. 2nd down. Seattle last year, best running team in the league. Of course, you have Marshawn Lynch, so you know you're going to be at or near the top. But then you throw Wilson in there, and gaining over 800 yards on the ground. And they led the league with an astonishing 172.6.
You know, now, of course, you throw Jimmy Graham into the mix, and I think they're still figuring out how to use him best.
There's no foul for 12-men defense. The defense had 11 men. These all the plays of first down, Seattle.
Jimmy Graham said he was shocked. He had no idea it was coming. He got a call from Sean Payton. Said, hey, look, how you doing? What's going on? You're traded.
Yeah, Sean's opening line was, this isn't a joke, man.
Right.
I guess they have some kind of relationship where they tell a lot of jokes, and apparently Drew Brees didn't think it was a joke either.
Then his agent called him and he said, hey, look at it this way. There's no state income tax in Washington. 3 receivers to the right. 2nd down and 10. And Lynch with a big hole that time, and he gets tripped up after he gains about 7. Nick Perry got a hand on him. Otherwise, he might have broken that all the way. And that'll make it 3rd and 3.
On the backside, I think Clay Matthews was going to try and jump that. They did a little cross route inside. Nate Palmer tried to get back over the top. He was clearly inexperienced. You could tell a week ago he had not played much inside linebacker, and they're hoping a big jump out of the other inside linebacker, Nate Palmer, tonight.
Spread them out. 5 receivers in this set. And timeout, Green Bay.
Second choice timeout. Green Bay. A 30-second timeout.
Last year we were here when Clay Matthews, they moved him inside from the outside. So what about against the Chicago Bears last week? He lined up on the left side 6 times, the defensive left, the right side 18, and in the middle 51. So they will move him around, obviously.
Now, would you call him the reluctant middle linebacker? I mean, he's going to do it, and he's happy to be a team guy. But I thought his line summed it up pretty good. He said, I like hitting quarterbacks, not fullbacks. And yet we saw when he was moved to the inside linebacker position, what a difference it made for a team that was really struggling to stop the run.
Definitely the second half of the season, a whole different Green Bay run defense. Last year, 3rd down and 3, they spread it out again. And Wilson fires incomplete, and well, Matthews is all over the place, and that time he's all over the tight end Luke Wilson, so it's 4th down.
Yeah, and he made the game-winning interception a week ago, and he's a little like Troy Polamalu was out there. You know, he kind of runs around. You never really know for sure what he's going to do or where he's going to be. But his speed, as much as you want to rush that guy, his speed on the back end can save a lot of big plays.
Stephen Hauschka, career long is 58 yards. This will be a 54-yarder. We already saw Crosby on the other side. Kick one again, very little wind. And Hauschka's kick is good. They have nicked the upright. 3:13 remaining in the opening quarter. Seattle gets on the board. It's 10-3 Green Bay. Did indeed. (10-3) Green Bay on top. The teams are trading 54-yard field goals. And now Seattle to kick off with Hauschka to send it down in the direction of Ty Montgomery. start from the 20.
So much of the conversation is about Aaron Rodgers. He puts up remarkable numbers and he stays healthy. Here's part of the reason why. Not only can he throw from every sort of different angle, and he practices all those sort of crazy arm angles. Remember somebody else that used to do that? The guy right there, Brett Favre. And watch the way Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers both, they like to throw with their feet off the ground. And we were talking to Aaron about it, and I said, you know, how do you do that, first of all? And he was explaining, he said, but it really helps you avoid injuries, because most of the injuries come when your feet are planted, somebody rolls into you. So just a little trick he stole from Brett over the years.
He threw a basketball chest pass last week in Chicago on one play. This is Starks. Gain of 6. Let's go to Michelle.
Well, Eddie Lacy just got carted into the locker room. He is questionable with a right ankle injury. Got retaped completely under the shoe and over the shoe. Tried to put weight on it and couldn't, so they've taken him to the locker room. But again, questionable, Al.
All right, thank you, Michelle. That is huge. The guy, of course, Eddie Lacy, one of the best backs in the league, 85 yards and a touchdown last week at Chicago. And we'll get a further report, I'm sure, on him as soon as we can, as Starks now takes the ball up to the 32-yard line. Starks, very experienced, drafted in the 6th round in 2010. Played a lot in their Super Bowl win against Pittsburgh, so very experienced, good at pass protection, good at a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and good at figuring out to run behind Josh Sitton. Seems like every time they need a big run in this offense, that's where they're going.
Here Starks again. And wrestled to a halt. Ruben, big number 77, came over from Cleveland. Bobby Wagner got a new contract. That was quite the draft that these guys had back in 12. They got Wagner in the 2nd round, and he's been magnificent in his 3 years in Seattle. And of course, 1 round later came a guy named Wilson.
When Wagner went out last year, their points per game average went up by almost a touchdown.
2nd and 8. And Rodgers extending, and then the ball slipped out of his hand. It'll be 3rd down and 8 with 1:24 to go in the period.
Well, so far we've seen that Don Barclay has done a nice job over there on the right side, and Aaron Rodgers is moving around, but I think as the game goes along, you're probably going to see him settle in a little bit more. It was one of the surprising things for me when I watched the championship game back again, just what a great job this Packers offensive line did. They probably have the best combination of guards in all of football with TJ Lang and Josh Sitton. Those tackles aren't bad either.
3rd and 8. And Rodgers is going to take a timeout, frustrated that he has to call it here. That's their final timeout.
3rd and final charge timeout
of the half.
Green Bay.
Minute and a half to go in the quarter. 10-3 Pack. After the timeout, 3rd down and 8 for Green Bay from the 34-yard line. Play clock of 2. Juggled snap. Rodgers rolling away. Caught Starks. But well short of the 1st down. Necktied there by Wagner. They're out of timeouts in the half. That's no big deal really in terms of the half. But remember, it takes you out of challenges as well in the half.
Yeah. Bobby Wagner, and this is part of the reason he got that big money, is that he has the speed to not only lock down a tight end, but can lock down the speedy running back coming out of the backfield. Terrific player.
Tim Mastay gets it away. Lockett now at the 14-yard line. Cutting all the way across the field. Finds a little bit of space, but you have a flag. Almost any time you run laterally that far, there'll be a flag on the play, and there is here on the other side of the field. But this kid's going to be an electrifying player over time.
It's amazing the number of big plays he's had already through the preseason, and then had another one last week for a touchdown.
First time he touched the ball as a National Football League player in a regular season game. Ran it back, a punt in St. Louis for a touchdown.
Yeah, I think he had 3 plays over 60 yards in preseason and came back with that one at like 57 yards in the opener.
During the return, illegal use of the hands, hands to the face, kicking team, number 83. The 5-yard penalty that was added to the end of the run. First down, Seattle.
There's Jeff Janis on the outside, and he's going against Richard Sherman, who's on special teams, and there you go, right up underneath the helmet, and Sherman irritated him enough to he drew the flag. And Ron Zook not too happy about it on the sideline. Had him pinned back. It's an interesting guy right there, isn't it, Richard Sherman?
Yep.
We've been listening to athletes for a lot of years, and he's one guy you pay attention to.
Loves his weekly press conference.
Almost as much as the media does.
Yes, they do. Lynch breaking tackles, as he's done throughout his career, which began with the Buffalo Bills. That's a first down. He takes the ball to the 48-yard line.
I don't think I've ever seen a guy as big as he is that runs as violently as he does, but still has that finesse of that jump cut and re-acceleration. Hard to argue that he may well be the best back in the league.
Going to take us to the end of the quarter. We're hearing that Michael Bennett, the defensive end, has also been taken back for evaluation to the locker room. More on that when we come back. End of 1. It's 10-3 Green Bay. Sunday Night Football continues after these messages.
Waiting all day for Sunday night.
Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth, Michelle Tafoya in Green Bay.
I saw you dancing to that last night.
Not me, no, it was somebody else. It's Drew Esikoff, our director. Wilson, first down at the 48-yard line. A tight roll to the right, and open and making the catch there is Luke Wilson. Tackled by Morgan Burnett, and a first down for the Seahawks.
Just the old classic bootleg play going to come across this way, but that is the impact of Marshawn Lynch. He starts making a couple of plays in the running game, and then you get that safety down there, and they all just fly because you gotta commit those resources, or Marshawn Lynch is going to run over you. Then you get the speedy Wilson on the outside.
And Lynch, a lot of traffic there. B.J. Raji makes the tackle.
Well, the big news so far in this one is that they are not allowing Marshawn Lynch to cut back, and it is a plan of Dom Capers. They are committed to staying on the backside and not over pursuing. They know that the dangerous big runs come from those cutbacks, so they want to cut the field in half, force him wide, force him to bounce it to the outside just like he did there, and Dom Capers knows that's a winning formula.
He's had one decent run of 7 yards, but overall 6 carries for 3 yards for Lynch. And they had action on the left side. You're going to have a false start there. It looked like as Peppers was ready to come across, Okun was moving. So who was first is the question.
False start. Offense, number 76. 5-yard penalty. Second down.
So Okun, their best offensive lineman.
Isn't it amazing, though, what Julius Peppers has been able to do in this league? I think he's 35 years old, had a sack and a half last week, and you just don't see any decline. I mean, the guy has come over here, and you think, oh, boy, here he is at the end of his career. He'll mop up a couple of years here. But you know, when the Green Bay Packers sign a free agent, it doesn't happen very often. They believe he has something left in the tank, and he certainly does.
The most homegrown. I mean, I can't think of a guy, a linebacker, 14 years in the league, playing at that level at that point. Wilson then steps up, and Wilson's going to get tackled by Mike Daniels at the 42-yard line. Nice stop there. Otherwise, Wilson would have gotten 6 or 7 more. Third down.
Well, that really wasn't what the Packers were hoping to do with Russell Wilson. They kind of got away with it that time. They don't want to get past where he is. So they don't want to be up in here. They want to stay at this level so they can fall back in here and make the play. You start getting behind Russell Wilson, it'll make you look bad.
Third down, 16. At the 42, Fred Jackson comes into the game, the longtime Buffalo Bill. They picked up a couple of weeks ago. And the pass deep down the sideline with contact being made. Curse, the intended receiver. Demarius Randall, who is their #1 draft choice rookie out of Arizona State, with the coverage.
Well, we would have had a replay of the Super Bowl if this one bounces back in his lap. Young player Demarius Randall, and this guy was a safety at Arizona State, a school you might know a little something about. And they are really excited. It's not many guys that can play safety in college and then turn around and make plays like that in the NFL, but they are excited about how physical he is and how good he is.
Ryan's kick, fair catch called for, made, 11-yard line, Micah Hyde. 12.5 to go in the half. 10-3 Packers at Lambeau. Aaron Rodgers, you can do a half hour on all that he has done in his career. Took over as a starter in 08. 4-1 touchdown interception ratio, which is off the charts. Highest in NFL history. Minimum 50 TD passes. The next best at any point after throwing 50 TD passes go back to Dan Marino with a 3.1-to-1 touchdown interception ratio. I mean, when you look at Rodgers, we mentioned before, hasn't thrown an interception here since 2012. League MVP last year. You name it, he does it.
You know, if you just put the numbers up, kind of hard to argue with the idea that he may be the best quarterback that's ever played the position. And I think certainly Mike McCarthy has pretty strong feelings on that. He's been amazed with the way he's playing.
From the 11. Fake the Starks. Throws, caught, first down, up to the 25-yard line. It's Randall Cobb, and we go to Michelle.
Well, Michael Bennett left the field for a couple of minutes to get that toe looked at. I'm told he is probable with some sort of toe issue. Apparently not serious, but they did change his shoes. They spatted up his feet. He now has his helmet on and looks like he's ready to come back in.
Thank you, Michelle. Meanwhile, DeMarcus Dobbs, 95, is in there in his spot for the moment.
Remember how dominant he was in the Super Bowl? I mean, he was just borderline unblockable.
From the 25 to the outside, and it's a good tackle made there by Deshaun Shedd on Devontae Adams.
Talking about a fast release. Watch this one. I mean, it's as quickly as he could get that fake done and back out. And talking to head coach Mike McCarthy, he was saying, you know, in the all-time list of strong arms, Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers would have to be very much in the conversation.
2nd and 9, and Rodgers able to dance away, extend the play, and turn what would have been a sack into a little bit of a gain. KJ Wright makes the stop. It'll be 3rd down and 6.
On the outside, you've got Richard Sherman on the young Devontae Adams all over him. Really nothing there whatsoever. This is the matchup they really feel like they need to win. Richard Rodgers on the outside against Kerry Williams. Everything was blanketed, so it's a nice option now without the calf injury or the hamstring that he suffered both those last year. Now able to pick up a few yards running. He's trying to go back to that hard count, and they're not jumping now.
4-man rush against the grain. Pass, first down. Devontae Adams to the 41-yard line. Tackled there by Shedd.
Well, got on the outside. Let's keep an eye on Don Barclay, 67. He's getting it done against Cliff Averill. Averill's been close a few times, but really the difference in this game and the championship game is the mobility of Aaron Rodgers. I mean, you can tell that he knew there might be a little issue with Barclay up there. So far, there really hasn't been, but his movement in this game has been the difference.
Bennett in, and Adams stays in, but he sets up on the outside on the right side. He was limping after that last tackle, and they run it on the ground to the 47-yard line. Starks is there. A little pushy shovey at the end of the play. 2nd down and 5.
Yep, here's Lacey, and what happened to him, you'll see the ankle is going to get rolled up on right there as KJ Wright brings him to the ground.
So Lacey's still in the locker room. Meanwhile, Adams did go off after that last play. Ty Montgomery comes in on the outside. Pack 5 wide on 2nd down and 5. And that's Starks, and Starks loses the ball. It's taken away, and the Seattle Seahawks have it. KJ Wright, after the reception, was able to extract it, fall on it, and the Seahawks will have the ball just in Green Bay territory.
And that hurts. James Starks had it and lost it. Give credit to KJ Wright. That was a great play.
So the turnover, ball at the 47. There goes Adams to the locker room, so he'll join Lacey back there. And here is Lynch to the 42-yard line, and Lynch keeps on going. You think you have him stopped. 62 there is the center, Drew Nowak, who won the job in training camp. He is a Green Bay kid. Grew up here. Family loves the Packers, and his family here tonight, and they all have to wear Seahawks jerseys, and there they are. And they're part owners of the team because a lot of people, of course, in this area, well, there's one
must be
Packer
a really
fan, yeah.
favorite relative of some time.
Yeah, how'd that guy get in there? Meanwhile, Josh Boyd, nose tackle, is hurt. Side, of course, that we all hate to see. That's Josh Boyd, who is the backup nose tackle. Got caught up in that pile at the end of the play with Lynch carrying for a gain of 7, and they have to bring the cart out for him. So the Packers, Lacey's back in the locker room. Adams back, and now there goes Josh Boyd. Well, things started beautifully for the Packers tonight. That first drive resulting in a touchdown. Now you get a thumbs up, which is a good sign, obviously, from at least for the moment, from Josh Boyd, 5th-round pick in 2013 out of Mississippi State, and the guy who backs up B.J. Raji. So we'll get a report on Boyd. His play resumes. 8:40 to go, first half, 10-3, and it's 2nd down and 3 after a 7-yard gain. Dayton Jones now comes in to play the spot occupied by Boyd, and you've got Lynch spinning and thrusting forward, and he's going to be close to a first down. Nick Perry makes the tackle.
At least so far, they have not been beaten on the backside of these plays, but you can see right here that there is some room out there should Russell Wilson start to make the decision to take off and run. This is a young and a different offensive line than we've seen in the past as well. Justin Britt moved from right tackle into left guard. Nowak came in there at center. Gary Gilliam at right tackle. So this is an offense that had some issues with communication a week ago, and they're trying to clean that up tonight.
Lynch did get enough of the first down. Now he swings to the outside. There comes Matthews to sling him to the turf. Flag down. Already had 6 accepted penalties in the game, 3 on each squad. And Gene Steratore is sorting it out.
After the play, personal foul, unnecessary roughness, number 64 of the offense. It's a 15-yard penalty in the down out. It will be 2nd down.
That is J.R. Sweezy costing him 15.
You know, I saw it, and I didn't see anything that looked too far out of place. Let's take a look here at the end of this play. Of course, down. All right there. I guess he tried to dive on at the end of it.
Yep. Thomas Rawls now comes into the game in the backfield, a rookie out of Central Michigan. Could be your number 3 running back. And Russell throws over the middle, and paying the price here is Baldwin. It's smacked down. Another flag. Nate Palmer, another flag again at the end of the play. A lot of extra stuff.
You know, it's an interesting call. Dix comes in with the helmet, but I don't think he's on the ground yet, and he's clearly a runner at this point.
So the officials getting together who had what angle. They want to know right now, is it legal or not? Of course, the crowd is seeing the replay and they're figuring, come on, it's got to be a personal foul.
There is no foul for a personal foul on the defense. The running back is still a runner at the time of the contact, and his forward progress was not stopped. It's a legal play, and it will be 3rd down Seattle.
Good call, partner, right there. Crowd looking at it, they knew that it shouldn't be a personal foul, and it was not. So it's 3rd down and 21 now.
It gets confusing sometimes, but as long as he's a runner, helmet to helmet's, you know, part of the game. It's the defenseless players they're trying to protect.
So Fred Jackson, the newly acquired Seahawk, comes in, brought him in to spell Lynch and also play on 3rd down a lot. Here he is on 3rd and 21.
Haven't seen much of Jimmy Graham so far.
Nope, been pretty quiet. And Wilson's going to take off, get to the 45-yard line, and that's it. 4th and long. Punting group comes in. Perry and Neal make the tackle.
Well, you've got the rookie Marius Randall at the top against Curse. Maybe an opportunity there. There's Jimmy Graham for something short and underneath. I thought they might just try and dump it down and give another opportunity for a field goal, but not quite enough.
Ryan punts. Nose of the football dropped down. Put a little backspin on it. Fair catch call for made at the 9-yard line by Micah Hyde. 6:12 to go in the half, and we go to Michelle.
Well, Josh Boyd, whom you just saw carted off of the field, is out with an ankle injury. Wide receiver Devontae Adams is questionable with an ankle. They were examining his left ankle earlier. And as you mentioned, Al, Eddie Lacy still hasn't made his way back out here, still questionable with his ankle injury.
All right, thank you, Michelle. Lacy, of course, as you all know, if you follow football, especially if you have him in your fantasy league, one of the top backs in the league. So it's going to be Starks. And he's the only other true running back who's active tonight. The other would be John Kuhn, who's the fullback. Gets a couple of carries from time to time. Michael Bennett's in the game. First down from the 8-yard line. Starks. You know, the Packers have now had the lead at some point or other in their last 50 games. That's over 3 seasons. And tonight, by scoring in the first quarter, they've now scored in the first quarter in their last 18 regular season games, and that, for what it's worth, is an NFL record. They start fast.
They do.
And they finish fast, too, normally. 2nd and 3. And Starks, wrapped up at the line of scrimmage. Bennett there again. Initial contact. It'll be 3rd down.
Comes Bennett off the edge. That toe wrapped up here. Going against Bakhtiari, who is a very good athlete himself. Ordinarily, if he has trouble, it's people using power against him. But Michael Bennett is just so quick and slippery inside. He just slides by offensive linemen.
Bennett and Wagner converging on the stop. Clock down to 5 minutes to go in the opening half. 3rd and 1. And Starks will pick up the first down. All right, so we always hear Rodgers go 319. Peyton, of course, with Omaha. We've heard Tacoma now. That's the new thing. 319.
319. I think I always thought it was green 19 when Brett Favre was here. Let's take a look at one of the best players in football right here, Josh Sitton. He's going to get over here and get this pile moving and just run right along with Michael Bennett. It's fun to watch this interior play. I think they match up with anybody in the NFL. I really do.
And Rodgers slings it incomplete to the outside. Randall Cobb nearest. It'll be 2nd down and 10.
Yeah, and they're getting a little thin at wide receiver now. I mean, you consider that James Jones just got here a few weeks ago. You got Randall Cobb, who's out there playing with a bad shoulder, and he's uncomfortable. Ty Montgomery, the rookie's in there now playing some receiver. So there's not a lot of experience, not a lot of training camp time and practice with the group that's on the field right now. So they've turned to the running game.
Packers dressed 8 offensive linemen tonight, one more than normal for most teams. Starks up to the 24-yard line. Starks has now carried 9 times for 35 yards in the absence of Lacey.
I'll tell you, one of the guys that I thought really made a difference on this football team last year was Corey Lindsley. I remember interviewing him before we did the Seattle game up there, the opener last year, and you go, oh boy, here's this guy, first time ever, and he's turned into just a rock solid center.
Rodgers again slides away, caught, but short of the first down. It's Burley making the tackle on Randall Cobb.
Well, this has definitely been a positive development here for the Seattle Seahawks. This guy right here, Marcus Burley's had a nice game. Randall Cobb is a Pro Bowl receiver and generally works out of the slot. And so far in this one, he's been able to hang right with him. So they're allowed to leave Richard Sherman outside where he's used to playing. This is a nice development for Seattle.
Got Burley last year in a deal with the Indianapolis Colts. And Nesta has to move to his right to take the snap. And he kicks it out of bounds. They'll spot the ball at about the 25-yard line. From the 24-yard line, Lynch patiently finds that hole. Should be a first down 10-yard pickup. Seattle has 2 timeouts plus the 2-minute warning.
You know, it's so interesting to me that they make the trade for Jimmy Graham, and yet at least so far in this season, caught the touchdown last week, but in the first half of both games, really a non-factor. It seems like if you could establish him, it just makes it easier to run the football with Marshawn Lynch.
Only been targeted once tonight, and that's Lynch dropping it. It'll be second down and 10 with 2:17 to the half.
You know, because there's an argument with Jimmy Graham. He's not really a blocker. He was a basketball player, and he's known as a receiver. He's working hard to be a better blocker, but he's a receiver. So if you're going to bring him in here, you're going to bring him in here as that receiver and work him in. But even those guys we're talking about, even Graham said, you know, I didn't do many scrambles when I was with the New Orleans Saints. Drew's a guy that tells you exactly where he wants to be, and he throws you the ball. Here, you got to be a little more creative with some of Russell Wilson's scrambles.
He comes out for this play. Luke Wilson is in. Here goes Lynch. Tough running. Clinton Dix makes the tackle, and it will be 3rd down and 3 as they let it go down to the 2-minute warning. 2 minutes to the half. Green Bay on top of Seattle 10-3 at Lambeau Field. Two minutes, 3rd down and 3. And Lynch is not going to get the first down. They're doing a great job with him. Matthews and friends are there to make the tackle. 4th down. In comes Ryan and company to punt.
Well, you're just getting all kinds of penetration coming through here. First Matthews, and there's Raji right there. And they're playing on the other side of the line of scrimmage. Same thing happened at the end of the Rams game on that big 4th down play. Some of these short yardage situations have not been kind to Seattle lately.
Ryan's kick. Fair catch call for, but they let it bounce and it skids into the end zone. And you got Mark Murphy and the brain trust there, Ted Thompson, who've done such a great job here through the years. Steady, solid, consistent. Some teams rebuild, retool, or whatever. These guys just do it on the fly. And they've been to the playoffs now 6 consecutive seasons with 4 consecutive NFC North championships. Packers have no timeouts. And he's going to get sacked. Rodgers taken down. Bruce Irvin for an 8-yard sack.
Well, clearly, Bakhtiari here is going to get beaten to the edge, and that is his one weakness. When you get a little power up underneath his shoulder pad, sometimes he can be pushed. Aaron just didn't have the room to step up that time.
At a flag. And again, something looked like they jump offside, so that enables Rodgers to throw deep downfield into double coverage, and that's going to draw a flag. That's Ty Montgomery who was there. You had Sherman bracketing him with Thomas, and again with the offside coming, if you get a pass interference here, you'll take the ball all the way to the 36-yard line, and that's going to be the case.
It's unbelievable, Al, that the entirety of the difference in this half has been offside penalties.
There are 2 fouls on the defense. Offside number 72. That penalty is declined. Pass interference, defense number 25. Spot foul, automatic. First down.
On Sherman, 52 yards. Chris talked about it earlier. The minute he knows he's got a free play, everybody go deep, and he'll throw it deep.
And it's been Michael Bennett who keeps jumping off sides. He does it consistently. And then what happens? Aaron Rodgers scrambles around, and they have thrown directly at Richard Sherman's side both times. So you don't want to take a lot of chances with him, but when you get a free play, you will. And the difference in this game so far have been offside penalties. Amazing.
And that play was a 2nd and 17. And now you've got a flag thrown as the catch is made, and Randall Cobb is bounced out of bounds at the 10-yard line. Flag back at the 24.
And Richard Sherman has been in the spotlight more in this half.
Holding. Defense, number 25. That penalty is declined. The result of the play. First down.
So he gets the pass interference. Going to come right back. Going to get the hold on the back end of this thing right there. Grab of the shoulder pads, caught. But Aaron Rodgers has been moving around in this half and buying so much time for his receivers. He just makes the game look easy sometimes. Here they are with no timeouts going right down the field.
Sherman back-to-back fouls. He had only 3 penalties all last season. 1st and goal. And that is caught. Cobb, he is stopped just short of the goal line. Clock ticking down. Again, they don't have a timeout. 23, 22, counting down. 2nd and goal. Rodgers staying very cool. Gets everybody set.
And I think he was helping count. Referee in the back is counting bodies. And I tell you, they better make sure they had that right.
A foul-filled first half.
Nowhere to hide now.
Prior to the snapping of the play, instant replay initiated a review on the ruling of down by contact. We're going to review the previous play as it relates to a score.
All right, so they'll review that to see if he was indeed stopped short of the goal line. No challenges inside 2 minutes. Also, they'll put some more time back on the clock.
It's a good call. Down, short, no question about it.
Earl Thomas was able to stop him there. Elbow down, the knee was down 2 at that point.
You know, it's one of the weak spots, if you will, of instant replay when clock management becomes such an important thing. No timeouts, you're winding down, you're making decisions. Right. Seattle had to feel good about what's going on, and all of a sudden now they're going to initiate a replay, and Green Bay gets a chance to go up and get settled.
Right, absolutely. Well, brother, it's just another crazy weekend in the National Football League. So many wild games, so at a halftime coming up.
You know, one thing we should say, though, and I know we're right here in an important part, but Pete Carroll, after that Super Bowl, was as impressive a leader as I've seen. That guy came out front and center. There were a lot of people that could have been blamed for what happened at the end of that Super Bowl. He said, don't look at anybody else. It's all on me. He didn't go on vacation. He didn't hide after the game. He came out, took it all on him. And if Seattle comes back this year and turns into yet another championship team like they've been, it's going to be due in large part to the way that guy handled the situation.
And one of the things he said after the Super Bowl and a number of times during the offseason about the call, and everybody, you know, saying that's the worst call of all time. And he said, worst result, not the worst call. The interception by Butler. Here comes territory.
After review, the ruling on the field is confirmed. The runner was down by contact at the 1-yard line. There will be 13 seconds on the game clock, and the clock will start on my ready for play. It is 2nd and goal, Green Bay.
So you have to snap the ball right now.
Yeah. I thought they were going to put some more time back on the clock because it took a minute for.
Second choice timeout. Seattle.
Seattle's going to take a timeout now. Well, you know, Carroll, the thing about Pete, I mean, he's the most youthful, what, 64-year-old that we've ever seen, next to you.
But I wear it well.
Right.
Let's take a look. You see all these guys on the outside, all these receivers that are looking in. And every time they see, mostly Michael Bennett jumping off sides. Now watch what happens. Whatever their route is changes. Now they're all taking off going down the field, and everybody gets excited. Defensively, everybody tends to hesitate and slow down. Here goes Aaron, and it's what he's done all night, going to scramble around. He doesn't want the little, as you see Randall Cobb right in front of him. He wants the big shot because you don't have to worry about the interception down the field. I think Richard Sherman may ask Michael Bennett in the locker room, please don't do that anymore. It's putting me in a tough spot.
– 18 inches away, 2nd down and goal.
Tight, Court.
And Rodgers to the outside, flips it, and the pass is caught, but the two officials look at each other and say touchdown. James Jones, and of course they will look at this as he makes the catch and was on the chalk. So clearly they'll look at this. 8 seconds left on the clock, and here's our first look at it.
There was a lot of contact with Kerry Williams down the field. The official in the back didn't have his hat on. I wonder if James had stepped out of bounds. Oh boy.
Well, there's contact all over the place with the two of them. Meanwhile, his feet are in, but now his.
Oh boy, is that close.
Right. The right buttock could be down.
Oh, wow.
Over the outside of his
I think the feet
thigh.
are fine, don't
yeah,
you? I think the feet are fine.
They are. He's got to make control it to the ground, which he does. Half a took us. What can I tell you?
Now we had the butt fumble. Now we got the butt catch. We got
get the whole thing here. We cover all bases.
I guess if I had to say, I would say he probably had touched down just prior to that catch being made, but is it enough to overturn it? Because they ruled touchdown on the field, right?
Well, everything's being looked at, as it always is, by the gang in New York. The Packers and the fans are all looking at it with their hearts as they watch the replays on the board.
How about what James Jones has done? That has the possibility of being, what, his 4th touchdown on the season. He went through training camp with the Giants, got cut by the Raiders at the end of the year. I just don't think you could say he had control. Oh, it's tight. But James Jones just came in here, and luckily for him, went through training camp with the Giants with Ben McAdoo, who used to be the coach here in Green Bay. So it was like he got a chance to get reacquainted with that system and then just fit right back in. And Aaron Rodgers lobbied hard for him. Gotta say he's down there.
I don't know if there's any question about it.
Yeah, I think he's out of bounds too.
Here comes territory.
After review, it has been determined that a part of the receiver's body touched out of bounds simultaneous with possession of the pass. When this action occurs, the ruling is an incomplete pass. The ruling is now incomplete. It will be 3rd down and goal, Green Bay. The game clock is at 8 seconds.
This is very interesting. Now you want to run the ball and you get stopped. You have no time to stop the clock. You can't spike it. You're almost compelled to throw, but who knows? I mean, they could try to run it, but if you don't get in, I don't think you can get reset and stop and start the play again before the clock goes to 0. They spread them out. They go 5 wide. Seattle has a timeout.
3rd and final charge timeout. Seattle, a 30-second timeout.
Well, and Aaron is one that likes to move around in this situation. But if you do that or you take a sack, then you might eat up the rest of the half, even with an incomplete pass. So this is he knows what he's doing. Aaron Rodgers, smart guy. Go back to it one more time. Here's a simultaneous thing again. You can see his hands really aren't even on the ball at that point. It's sort of wedged in there to his arm.
So 8 seconds, 3rd and goal. Seattle gets the ball to start the second half. And Clement's calling the play in. He's the play caller after McCarthy handled that for the last 9 years. 5 wide. Rodgers over the middle, and that's incomplete. Bobby Wagner on Richard Rodgers. No flag. 4th and goal.
Really nice play by Wagner coming back underneath Rodgers here. He had to get on the good side. Yes, that arm was wrapped around, but as long as Wagner doesn't turn the hip there, I don't see any of that. I think that's the right call, the right no call. And that is a huge defensive stand by Seattle just before the half.
So McCarthy opts to come away with 3 points instead of maybe none. Eschewing the chance to get the touchdown. Mason Crosby for a little chip shot, 18-yard field goal, but that is a victory at the end of that sequence for the Seattle defense. So 2 seconds to play in the half. You had a chance to visit any of this?
I have.
I was in there. They first opened this thing up. Good.
Yeah, I've been here before where it's a little chillier than I anticipated.
Well, I already got the jacket on. What can I tell you?
Jacket and the whole thing.
Well, here's the long pass to set him up again. In well, that's
started with the Bruce Irvin sack. And
well,
next time jump off sides, and there you go. But
different play.
I think we might have some other teams around the league following the example of Aaron Rodgers after this game with the kind of success he's had. He had the touchdown pass, came off a jump off sides. He had the 50-yard completion that led to another 3 points. So essentially 10 of the 13 points you see for Green Bay directly attributable to the fact that Seattle jumped off sides.
Packers 200 total yards in the half, and Seahawks about half of that, 104. Bouncing ball 14-yard line, and good coverage there by Green Bay on Tyler Lockett. That takes us to halftime. The third quarter will commence. Seattle gets the ball. Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth, Michelle Tafoya on Sunday Night Football. It's the rookie Tyler Lockett. Picked him in the 3rd round out of Kansas State. Mason Crosby with Lockett about 8 yards deep, taking it right there. And let's get an update from Michelle.
Well, the story of the game has been Michael Bennett jumping off sides, and Pete Carroll told me at halftime, we prepared for the hard count. We have not handled it well. We have to stop jumping. As for his running game, he said it's been spotty. It's there for us. We got to be consistent. Mike McCarthy told me Eddie Lacy is out for the night because of that ankle injury. Devontae Adams is still questionable. Overall, he said they just need to clean up communication on offense, Al.
All right, thank you, Michelle. They started out with an 80-yard drive and then bogged down. Of course, the Seattle defense had a little to do with it, but then the Seattle defense was able to limit them to a field goal, not a touchdown. at the end of the half. That's Lynch, who splits wide to the right, and the pass is thrown behind but caught one-handed by Luke Wilson. The tight end comes out of the slot and takes it for a gain of 24 to the 44.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to say they really should start working Luke Wilson
sure
down the field. Look at this catch. Holy cow. Talking about Jimmy Graham, and we haven't seen much of him, and then Luke Wilson comes out, makes an incredible catch. Maybe that's what they needed to jumpstart this offense.
Fake to Lynch. Wilson extending. Burnett can't tackle him, and then he steps out of bounds. Rogers jumps over the trash can on the sideline. And it'll be second down.
Guess who? B.J. Raji went right over Drew Nowak again, right up the gut here, and so forces Russell Wilson out of the pocket quickly. But I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing, because we've seen a fairly static Russell Wilson in the first half, and maybe it's the plan of the Packers. They were trying to box him in, force him to throw from the pocket, but he's so elusive. At some point, you want to see him out on the edge or keeping the football. That's when this offense can get jump-started.
That was officially a sack, goes to Peppers, because it was a 1-yard loss when he scrambled out of bounds, and that's incomplete, intended for Jermaine Kearse. It'll be third down and 11 for the Seahawks.
That one just totally got away there. So now you're backed up, and this is an offense that's really not built for third down and 11s. They want to stay on course. They want to run Marshawn Lynch, and now this young offensive line that has been reshuffled is going to be challenged. Let's see if they try and get after Gary Gilliam, the right tackle, who had a tough time the other night.
Matthews gets the crowd stirred up. They comply happily. And Wilson stepping up in a clean pocket, throws. That's caught 42-yard line by Tyler Lockett for a first down. Clinton Dix makes the tackle. Big third down conversion.
And that was a big play. They really did need that one. Just going to come across here on the crossing route. And it was interesting talking to Darrell Bevel. He said, you know, we really ended up with Lockett as a guy. We just got him thinking he was going to be a kick returner. And then after about 3 days in camp, we're like, whoa, wait a minute now. This guy has some skills. I would expect him to be a bigger and bigger part of this offense as we go along.
4 catches last week, plus a punt return touchdown. Now Wilson, and that's going to be another first down. Hits Baldwin, who's taken out of bounds there by Micah Hyde. Good opening second half drive by the Seahawks.
Yeah, and sometimes you get the feeling with Russell Wilson, you just have to get him engaged a little bit. Get him out on the edge. Let him start creating some things with his legs. Take maybe even a hit or two during the course of running the football occasionally. And he has a way of waking up this football team when he starts running.
Rolling again. And Wilson's going to take off. It's tackled by Hyde after a gain of 7 yards to the 20-yard line.
It's just so difficult when he starts getting on the edge. Even if you've got somebody over here on this side, ordinarily they can't tackle him. I've seen so many really great players in this league in one-on-one tackling situations trying to get Russell Wilson to the ground. They just can't get it done. And so here is the guy, you gave him a big contract, and they're doing a nice job here in the second half, just cutting him loose a bit.
Second down and 3. Wilson again off the fake to Lynch, forced out of bounds. First down, Clinton Dix. You spot the ball at about the 10.
And there's that backside guy that is locked into place sometimes. Here they don't block the backside player at all. And so here he is, one-on-one. Who cares? You're not going to tackle Russell Wilson in the open field like that. So sometimes one-on-one is one-on-none.
Put it right at the 10, which means it's first and goal for Seattle. Lynch stopped again, can't get on track. Dayton Jones making the tackle, loss of 1, second down and goal.
Well, that was some play by Dayton Jones, wasn't it? Tried to cut him on the backside, and he just jumped over that whole mess and made a play.
Stopping Lynch in his tracks all night long.
Here he comes right over. Gilliam tried to cut him, and he just gave him a Skeets Nehemiah move there, just hurdled him.
On 2nd and goal. Wilson dumps it to Lynch. Just inside the 10, so it'll be 3rd down and goal with the Green Bay defense stiffening on the opening drive of the 3rd quarter.
I'll tell you, there may be a reason they're not getting the ball to Jimmy Graham either. Let's give a little credit to Micah Hyde, I think it was, on that one. And he is a guy that was a former cornerback who is also now in there and has the ability to take on some of these bigger, faster tight ends. He's a bit of a specialist. And he's done a good job so far on Jimmy Graham.
Graham in tight on the left side. 3 receivers set to the right. And Green Bay jump. Free play, and that's knocked down at the line of scrimmage. Clinton Dix came across the line. And he knows it. So that'll keep it at 3rd down and goal.
Defense, number 96. 5-yard penalty, replay. 3rd down.
3rd down and goal, taking the ball to the 5.
Right there, just a little lean in, and of course everybody gets excited when you get in those pass rush situations, and there's Clinton Dix almost coming up with it. So once again, the offsides penalty rears its ugly head.
Fred Jackson in the backfield with Wilson.
We've got right outside there, Jimmy Graham. They're going to try and set up something for him here.
Comes into the slot. Wilson looks that way, then the other way over the middle. Caught, touchdown, Fred Jackson. Oldest running back in the league at 34. Bills let him go. Seattle picks him up to back up. Lynch comes in on 3rd down. Touchdown, Seattle.
That's Darrell Bevel over there. Clearly was looking over here to this side. And then on the backside, the old veteran, Fred Jackson. Really one of my favorite players. I tell you, the guy never gets any credit. I thought all those days in Buffalo, he's an honest back. He gives you exactly what you have. He understands how to read defenses. They bring him over, and he is delivering now for this football team. But that drive was all about Russell Wilson. That was sensational.
Extra point by Hauschka is good. 3 rushes, 7 passes. They go 80 yards in a little over 5 minutes to turn it into a 3-point game in Green Bay. Two yards into the end zone. Ty Montgomery out to the 16-yard line. Packers take the ball for the first time in the 3rd quarter, up by a field goal.
Aaron Rodgers in the first half, really the difference was his ability to draw Seattle, and in particular Michael Bennett off sides, which set up his receivers on the outside. Veteran like James Jones knew immediately what Rodgers wanted. He was going to scramble, buy some time, set up the touchdown, jump off sides again. Why not? It's the only time you want to throw at Richard Sherman is when you think you have an edge and there's no risk. Get the pass interference call, but there hasn't been much offense for Green Bay other than those kinds of plays. And this is a team that averaged almost 40 points a game at home last year. Just #1 defense getting it done.
And went down the field on the opening drive for 80 yards for their only touchdown. This is Starks. Again, Lacey out for the night with an ankle injury. So Starks will be the workhorse. 2nd down and 8 after a gain of 2.
And you have to say some of the things that Seattle has done on defense have paid off as well. Marcus Burley's done a good job as that slot cover corner, and Deshaun Shedd back in there at safety is filled in admirably for Cam Chancellor so far.
And Devontae Adams is back, the wide receiver for Green Bay. Rodgers in trouble, throws it away out of bounds. And Aaron goes down. 3rd down and 8.
Never easy out here for this guy when you're going against Michael Bennett, but David Bakhtiari, the one thing that he is very athletic. You don't see many guys take advantage of him athletically. Let's see what Devontae Adams, you can see that left ankle taped up now, and it's no fun playing the game like that.
3rd and 8. Four-man rush, and Rodgers gets swallowed up for the sack at the 8-yard line, and that's Bennett right there to take him down and show off to the crowd.
Yeah, this is the one way you beat David Bakhtiari. You don't beat him with speed, you just bull right through him. And you saw there Michael Bennett, it was almost like he's winding up with a punch. He took a little wide turn there and then went right through him. And on the other side, you got the same thing out of Averill. So they just made a Aaron Rodgers sandwich on that one.
Tim Mastay with a kick toward the sideline. Lockett fields just barely inbounds and gets taken down right away at his own 45-yard line by Jaron Elliott. So a quick 3 and out. Seattle has the ball back, down by 3. Well, you go back to February the 1st. Head coach Pete Carroll, offense coordinator Darrell Bevell, quarterback Russell Wilson, Marshawn Lynch, who a lot of people thought should have been given the ball, and turning Malcolm Butler into an all-time folk hero in the Super Bowl. Thomas Rawls is the running back here. He's the number 3 back. And Russell Wilson throws, and that is caught. That's going to be a first down. Jimmy Graham. So everybody, of course, most everybody thought, you know, Lynch would be a shoo-in to score from the 1. Take a look at that. 45% of his carries, 1 for 5 last year. You go back to 2007, he would rank 53rd of 68 players in rushing attempts from the 1-yard line. So hardly a slam dunk. And as Carroll said, maybe not the worst call of all time, but certainly the worst result ever. That was Graham's first catch for 11 yards. And here comes Wilson. And Russell Wilson down the sideline, steps out of bounds at the 26. So, of course, that will go on forever and ever. You know, it's so funny, too, because I think back, Chris, to Brandon Browner, no longer in New England, but he was able to jam curse, let Butler get in there to make the interception that will be one of the great plays of all time in Super Bowl history.
Yeah, and it even came up this week with Marshawn Lynch's mother making some comments about Darrell Bevell, the play caller, and I asked Darrell about it, and he said, you know, it's just part of my position, but we love her and we love our fans, and I have no problem at all with it.
Now Wilson throwing, and it is incomplete and almost picked. You had Wilson there, Nate Palmer, and Clinton Dix with Luke Wilson.
It was close, but Nate Palmer, let's give him some credit. Here he is right here. Had a tough game, I thought, last week, but he showed up and he was pretty good in coverage throughout and really was just in the way. I don't think there was any interference to speak of there. His body was in the way, and Clinton Dix probably should have had that one.
Halfway through the 3rd quarter, 2nd and 10. And looked like Wilson called timeout, which he did.
Prior to the snap, timeout, Seattle. Their first charge timeout and a half. It will be 30 seconds.
So I had a chance to talk to Darrell Bevell. Of course, I was critical too. I thought they should have taken advantage. It was almost a free play on 2nd down right in the Super Bowl, and I said, well, you know, I thought you were either going to give it to Lynch or have Russell Wilson on the edge. I had it narrowed down to those 2 plays, and when he stood up to pass it, I thought it was a quarterback draw. And Darrell said, so I surprised you with the play call? And I said, yeah. He said, is that necessarily a bad thing? And I said, no. And we kind of had a laugh. I got to give him credit. He's been under siege here lately. But the guy at least has a good sense of humor, and he's taken them to the Super Bowl in back-to-back years. So maybe a little overcooked on Darrell Bevell.
Agreed. 2nd down and 10 from the 26. Fired, caught, first down, 13-yard line. Chris Matthews, remember him from the Super Bowl? Didn't catch one pass during the regular season. Inactive for a lot of the year. And then he catches 4 passes for over 100 yards in the biggest game of all.
Yeah, and don't forget about the onside kick that he recovered to give him a chance to make that comeback. But Matthews he's a big guy. He made the play with a sort of a jump ball down on the goal line right before the half. So maybe they're going to get him engaged again.
So Rawls in the backfield. Lynch still on the sideline. And Wilson throws, and that's caught. Touchdown, Doug Baldwin. And the Seahawks, who were down 10-0 early, it's a 13-yard touchdown. A quick 54 yards in 5 plays to take the lead.
I love the savvy veteran route here. Watch this. Going to come out, give it a little stick to the outside. A lot of patience on that move. Give him a little push right off there. And Al, I tell you, since Russell Wilson took off and started running the ball and scrambling and doing some of the things that he's always been noted for, now they're coming back inside, throwing from the pocket. This offense is now set up, and they've been going up and down the field.
And doing it mainly without Lynch, who wasn't even in on that drive. 28 yards rushing, and with Jimmy Graham basically silent. Hauschka's extra point is good, and with 6:48 to go in the third quarter, the Seahawks have their first lead of the night, 17-13. And it's a bouncing ball that will just get into the end zone for a touchback. Almost went out of bounds at the 1, which would have brought it back out of the 40. Quarterback comparison tonight. So the numbers, completions, and attempts very similar. So are the yards. Of course, Aaron did most of his damage early. That first drive was brilliant. But since then, a different story.
Yeah, I haven't seen this offense struggle the way that they have. Of course, you're talking about the #1 scoring defense. And now they've got to kick it back into gear. They started off hot and really have not done much since.
And the 26, that's caught. Davante Adams, 2nd down and 4.
And Davante Adams is, he's toughing it out and he's sort of faking his way through it, but he's not nearly the threat now with that ankle injury. And of course, Jordy Nelson on IR with the ACL and preseason, so they're getting a little thin on the outside.
Starks, big hole, exploits it into Seattle territory and finally shoved out of bounds at the 39-yard line by Cary Williams. On a 2nd and 4, he goes 35 yards.
Great job inside right here. We talked about TJ Lang, one of the best guards in football. Corey Linsley came over and knocked him out, and you just do not see holes that size in the National Football League. Good running by James Starks to take advantage.
And almost never against the Seahawks.
Let's go 5-0.
From the pistol, Starks again. Couple of tough yards to the 37-yard line. 2nd down and 8.
You have 2 hot quarterbacks in this game, and Mike McCarthy, it was fun to listen to him talk about Aaron Rodgers. He has seen some of the greatest of the greats and worked with him over the years, and he just doesn't think anybody's playing at the level that Aaron Rodgers is right now.
And Rodgers packs it in, dives, picks up the 1st down.
Well, the one thing about Aaron Rodgers is we've seen over the years, if you're going to rush 4, by default, that means there is going to be one gap open to run, and he finds it almost every time.
Almost no blitzing from Seattle tonight. Just that standard four-man rush. And this time it's good enough to put the heat on him. And then he throws, and the pass is thrown out of bounds. James Jones covered well that time by Kerry Williams. Second down.
Well, there are times that if you watch game tape of Aaron Rodgers, you can't believe he escapes. That was one of those times. He was getting high load on that one. And it's what they call Chris Richard, the defensive coordinator, said it was the craftiness of Aaron Rodgers inside the pocket that scares me most.
Starks again. He'll get stopped after a minimal gain. KJ Wright was there. It'll be 3rd down and 9 for the Packers. Clements sending in the play call. Of course, Rodgers can check out of anything he wants at any time.
Randall Cobb, typically the guy in the slot that gets a lot of action in this scenario, but so far tonight, not a lot of balls thrown his way.
A hard count. Seahawks line is anxious, trying to stay onside, which they do. And he escapes. Now Starks makes the catch, but goes nowhere thanks to Bobby Wagner. Makes the tackle at the 26-yard line, which will set up about a 44-yard field goal attempt.
Yeah, when this guy starts doing this stuff, it gets scary. Tom Brady in the Super Bowl saw a couple of those coming running right down his throat too. And Bobby Wagner, there aren't many guys that have been born that can play the run as well as he does inside, but also sprint and run after tight ends and running backs, and he's every bit as fast as they are.
44-yard attempt for Crosby. And he is 3 for 3.
Both coaches yelling at the officials.
The crowd thought that Seattle was offside. Don't see a flag. (17-16). The crowd, as we said, as you have a touchback here, thought that Seattle was offside. Even if they were, there was no flag. They probably would have declined it because it was a 4th and 8. We'll take a look again. It was 4th and 8. So here is Sherman. Is he off or not? There was no flag. It's close. But even had he been offside, it would have been declined because it would have been 4th and 3, and they would have taken the field goal anyway.
How hot has that guy been? Come out here in the second half. Nothing really seemed to be working. He started running the football. A couple of bootlegs, a few big passes, and here we go.
So 50 straight regular season games in which the Hawks have had a lead. That's every one of Wilson's games. So that's 3 seasons plus 2 games. 3-12. Lynch is back in the game. He wasn't in on the last drive. You got Baldwin to score the touchdown. In motion to the inside, and the pass goes to Doug Baldwin up to the 25-yard line. Hyde makes the tackle. The numbers on Russell Wilson since halftime.
Well, there he goes. And when he started running the football, you could just feel the energy of this offense go up, taking him right down the field. A couple of bootlegs, not even looking to throw there. He just tucking that thing and running. And I know he just got paid a bunch of money, and you don't want the guy to get hurt, but you got to let him play his game, and that's his game. He got to his game in the second half.
2nd down and 5. Wilson again off that play fake to the 33-yard line. Hayward makes the tackle there. 1st down.
And this is what you do. I mean, this is the unblocked guy. Again, he's going to come down. Marshawn Lynch is a beast, and you got to go tackle him and all that kind of stuff. But you see Julius Peppers, who's a great athlete, was really in position to make that play. But Russell Wilson is just that quick and that elusive, and he knows how to protect himself. He knows how to get down, so you don't have to worry so much about his getting hurt, maybe as much as some of these other quarterbacks.
2 minutes to the end of the quarter. And Wilson able to avoid a sack, and he turns what would have been a sack into a 7-yard gain before he's finally brought down by Nate Palmer. 2nd down and 3.
Isn't it interesting that we're seeing Aaron Rodgers with all the movement in the first half and Russell Wilson with all the movement in the second half? And even though they're starting to get a little closer with some of the pressure, it gets really frustrating for pass rushers when they beat their guy and they still can't get that quarterback on the ground. And both of these guys can do that to pass rushers.
Stuttering start for the Seattle offense tonight, but now Wilson on the ground, 61 yards on 7 carries. And it's fumbled. Ball is loose. Lynch, flag is down. Lynch lost the ball. Penalty, you got a penalty after the play as well, with Daniels involved in that, but a flag went down at the outset of the play and then one right after the play. Burnett comes away saying we've got it.
So one danger of that read option play is that the quarterback decides at the point of the handoff, and sometimes you mess it up.
So for starters, they're untangling to see who has the ball. Only the Packer players have signaled that they have it. Nothing yet from the Zebras. You're going to get 2 separate fouls on the play. One at the outset and one post.
We've seen one simultaneous possession game decided between these two teams.
Well, you got Lynch there, and then you got Mike Neal there. Looked like Neal came away with the ball, but all depends on the initial penalty, at least in terms of whether Green Bay will have possession or not.
Just take a look at it. The mesh point of this read option is so difficult. Hits him a little high. It was a little bit higher than you typically want to make it.
There are multiple fouls on the play. Initially, we have offside. Defense number 64 lined up in the neutral zone. We will accept that foul. The other foul in the game is a dead ball, unsportsmanlike conduct foul on number 76 of the defense for pulling an opponent off the foul. Because that is after the play, that foul will be declined. We'll accept the offside. 5 yards was the result in a first down for Seattle.
That's Mike Pennell, the defensive end, 64. He was offside, negating the fumble.
Right there, you can see head across. That's the initial one. And then Mike Daniels. This is something that they have changed this year. It doesn't look like much, but anytime you're pulling people off the pile, they saw last year there were some fights that started based on people doing that. So they said, all right, we're not going to have that this year. And we've already seen it a couple of times, Al, this year that they've called that penalty.
Yeah, you can't turn the opponent into a wishbone. Ball at the 44-yard line. Crowd upset. Minute 9 to go in the period. First down from the 44. Play clock 4-3. And it runs all the way out. So a delay here.
Seattle calls timeout.
Well,
it's their second of the half. And it will be a 30-second timeout.
They saw the clock going to nothing. Take a timeout before they got the delay, and that's their second timeout of the half, down to 1.
Watch Clay Matthews here. Now you've got one linebacker, Nate Palmer, already up, but it is giving Clay Matthews, and again Troy Polamalu is kind of what I think of, a guy that you're going to try and send as many different ways as you possibly can. And you know, you give up something great. Clay Matthews coming off the edge as a pass rusher is great, but now Dom Capers is saying, well, if that's great, why don't we do some things now that he's on the inside where he can rush from any one of a number of different areas and attack the defense. So in the game last week against Chicago, I saw him do about as many things as I've ever seen a linebacker do in one game.
Used to be outside all the time. Now, as you saw that in that graphic, almost always inside, at least tonight. Playing the middle linebacker role here, and Wilson gets pressured and then throws it away because Jones put the heat on him. Crowd, of course, wants a grounding penalty because they think he wasn't outside the tackle box.
That was close.
Yeah, you can, if you're outside the tackle box, you can throw it away. It's not a penalty, and the crowd looking at that, and They certainly know their football in Green Bay.
So they're going to say somebody was in the area. I always thought he was in the tackle box. Just because you go backwards doesn't mean anything. I guess they're going to say that Chris Matthews was in the area, but I don't think you're going to convince anybody in this stadium of that.
He was in the area of Sheboygan. 2nd and 10. And Wilson throws, and that's incomplete. Lynch, the intended receiver. Again, the heat put on Wilson. Packers getting good pressure up front, 3rd and 10.
Yeah, they tried to run that same pick play that they ran in the championship game to get Marshawn Lynch down the boundary there. But once again, a good job. Nate Palmer's been in the right position a lot tonight in coverage. I think he's still learning how to play inside linebacker when it comes to playing the run, but in coverage, he's been pretty solid.
Spread it out on 3rd and 10. Wilson deep downfield and incomplete. Doug Baldwin. Hyde covering on the play, 4th down.
Boy, this is a tough ask right here, boy, for anybody. Micah Hyde right over here, just one-on-one. There's nobody down the field. He's really a first-class punt returner, but in this game, he has done a job, not only on Jimmy Graham, but on a very big play right there.
Ryan averaging 44 yards on his 4 kicks. This one a little shorter. Fair catch call for made at the 20-yard line. 36-yard punt. Well, you know, we saw when the schedule came out, Seattle, Green Bay, you know, Sunday Night Football, we knew it comes early in the season. When you go back to that game last year, that will be remembered forever, along, of course, with the Super Bowl. Still might be, you know, who knows at this point. 2 best teams in the NFC. What do you think?
Absolutely a possibility here. Of course, a long way to go with this thing. But I've really been impressed with Seattle. They've come in here on the road. They've had the advantage of playing there with their 12th man, 12s, I guess they're calling them now. But to come on the road into this stadium and slow this offense down, we don't see that very often, and we've done a bunch of games here.
And they trail 10-0 early. Green Bay, of course, has their own 12. And he'll take the snap from the shotgun and hand the ball to Starks, and Starks will get wrapped up from behind. Tackle made by Jordan Hill. 2nd and 10. Rodgers almost unbeatable here. His 11th season, but he was a starter in 2008 for the first time. 6-6 in his first 12 starts. Since, all he does is win 12 times for every loss. 36-3. Well, here we go again.
Now you got to cross the line of scrimmage for the offense to be able to jump.
Start. Offense number 69.
Yeah, good call.
Penalty, 2nd down.
There was movement, but if he doesn't cross the line of scrimmage, then you can't jump. Let's take a look here. Definite movement.
Well, it's the end of the 3rd quarter. Seattle outscores them 14-3 in the period. Sunday Night Football resumes after this. Second and 15 as we start the 4th quarter. And Rodgers fires, caught wide open. Randall Cobb. And that moves the sticks. Tackled by Carey Williams. Gain of 18, 1st down.
It's a really good understanding that time by Aaron Rodgers. Seeing the seam was there. You don't want to lead your guy up the field in any way, shape, or form and get him hurt going up the field. But here he goes right here. And now just settle in there as a wide receiver. Just got it around Bobby Wagner on the inside.
One-point game. Cobb moves into the slot. 5 wide here. Aaron getting out of bounds in front of the Seahawk bench. Rubin runs him out. Gains a couple, second down and 8.
Yeah, Richard Sherman was walking the line here again, but he's going to get some help here over the top from Deshaun Shedd, the safety. Maybe Aaron was just a little uncomfortable with that one. You know, Deshaun Shedd's a name we should throw out here because he basically is replacing Cam Chancellor in this one. Deion Bailey played there a week ago, gave up a big touchdown. But so far, Deshaun Shedd has played pretty well, and you can tell that because you haven't said his name a whole lot.
Sure. And that's caught, and breaking away is Cobb for a long gain into Seattle territory. Broke away from the grasp of Earl Thomas, and Rodgers says, let's get to the line and run the next play. Gain of 19.
And this is what you've got to do. When you've got a great player like Randall Cobb, a Pro Bowler, just get him in space. Again, a one-on-one like we were talking about Russell Wilson. Sometimes you don't have to win the battle. You just want to get your guy the ball in a one-on-one situation and give him a chance. Hard to tackle Randall Cobb in the open field. Now he's sitting there in the backfield with Aaron Rodgers.
And a flip. And taking Seahawks with him, Richard Rodgers caught a pass early, his first grab since then, and that's a gain of 9 to make it second down and 1.
It's one of those new plays that first time I ever saw it was with Green Bay. Maybe somebody did it before that, but basically these guys are just going to come down and block. They don't even turn around and look for a pass. Of course, you've got to throw the ball immediately to the next guy or else it's offensive pass interference. They run it as well as anybody, and then the yards after the catch, key there. This is sort of a free down now for Aaron Rodgers. Second down and short, a lot of options.
Both Rodgers, Cal guys. University of California, that's a first down on the second and 1 as Randall Cobb makes the grab. So just about into field goal range. First down to the 34-yard line.
It's fun to watch these two quarterbacks work. They're not the same kind of guys, but in some ways they are. They have the same sort of physical skill set, and you just get the feeling that more experience Russell Wilson gets, the more he's going to look like Aaron Rodgers down the road.
Rodgers sends Cobb out to the left. 5 wide here. Quick throw. Caught. And bouncing his way for a first down is Ty Montgomery. The rookie from Stanford, picked in the 3rd round. Rodgers says, let's keep it up, keep the pace up.
First time Montgomery, the kick return guy. Here he is. Watch these guys. They're just going to come out here and block. Same sort of a deal. Maybe a little hold by Devontae Adams on that one, but you get your kick returner kind of guys. Randall Cobb just a second ago. Now Ty Montgomery in space, and let him go.
Out of the 17. There's Richard Rodgers in the backfield with him. And another quick throw, and this time it's Montgomery again. Maybe a yard. Burley makes the tackle. 10:50 to go in regulation.
I can't remember. Can you remember seeing a blitz tonight out of Seattle?
Yeah, I said it before that everything was a 4-man rush.
You know, and you got those 4 guys rushing. Maybe you don't feel like you need to, but I mean, this is as basic, just simple a defense. Spread it out.
And it's pretty much been that way through the last 3 coordinators. Second down and 8. Of course, the players are pretty good. And a 4-man rush, and flag is thrown. Now the question is going to be, was it catchable to begin with? James Jones, you got Williams, who's carrying on about the flag.
Well, one of the hard parts of that illegal contact call is, you know, where is the 5 yards?
Illegal contact, defense, number 26, 5-yard penalty, automatic, first down.
So you're going to get the out and up here, and now at the top end of this one, Kerry Williams going to give him a shove, and I think even Kerry would say, you're going to say, yeah, he did, but it was probably at 6 yards. But we know now the officials have been instructed, You know, the rule's 5 yards, and we're going to call it at 5.
And it couldn't have been pass interference because it was an uncatchable ball that Rodgers had thrown, so they get the 5-yard penalty. Automatic first down, obviously. First and goal from the 10. Quick flip again to the outside. 5-yard gain. Ty Montgomery. Big factor on this drive. Second down and goal.
You know, one of the reasons I think that Seattle is just staying in that zone, you don't want to end up in man-to-man against some of those looks, because if your man gets picked or whatever, you walk in the end zone. So you want some people to be able to tackle. And as you get closer down to the goal line now, the space that they have to work those plays is much smaller, and you have more people in range to make the tackles.
As Green Bay found out at the end of the first half, when they couldn't get it in, had to settle for the field goal after they had the ball at the 1-yard line. Second and goal. This time a 3-man rush. Rodgers fires, and it is caught for the touchdown. Richard Rodgers working on Kerry Williams, and again extending the play. Moving against the grain. Lambeau leap coming. Green Bay has the lead again.
This time we're going to go 3-man rush and drop Michael Bennett out. But again, anytime you get a 3-man rush against a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, what is he going to do? There are massive holes for him to move around, but he's not looking to run here. He's looking to throw, and there's Rodgers just working back to the football. And for Kerry Williams, you know, to try and cover anybody in this league for 4, 5, 6 seconds gets to be too much.
Well, let's see. Of course, all scoring plays are reviewed. Taking a look at this one.
Go for 2 here.
Turn a 5-point lead into a 7-point lead. And it's the touchdown confirmed under the league average. The league average is 48%. McCarthy's team's averaging 39%. 5 wide on the conversion. And Rodgers fires, and a flag is thrown, caught anyway by Richard Rodgers. Beats Bobby Wagner. Defensive foul, forget about it. So Rodgers gets 6, and then he adds 2 more.
It's just amazing for me to watch Aaron Rodgers throw from as many different angles as he does.
Defense, number 54. The penalty is declined in the zone of the play. Successful PAT. Timeout.
7-point game. Pretty soon he'll be throwing submarine. 24-17. Green Bay. From 5 yards in, and that Green Bay coverage unit doing an excellent job to bottle him up all night. 7-point game. Wilson with the ball when we come back.
This is Sunday night.
And Sunday night, Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks trying to avoid an 0-2 start. Had the lead, given it up, down by 7 now. 9:23 left. Pick up the blitz, hand the ball off to Marshawn Lynch to the 23.
Old-fashioned shootout in here in Lambeau Field tonight between 2 great quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers just can contort his body any which way he wants to, and Russell Wilson, once he started running and getting engaged in this game, he just took over. A couple of great drives back-to-back, then started doing it with his arm. Aaron Rodgers answers, and now it's back on Russell Wilson.
And Lynch again. And Lynch bowling his way. Quintessential Marshawn Lynch. Yards after contact. He's terrific at that. First down up at the 31-yard line.
Yeah, and it's one of the things we always see when you're talking about Marshawn Lynch. Anytime you get into the 4th quarter and they're still in the game and it's still close, tackling that guy gets harder and harder because the energy level has gone down. You're a little tired on defense. You start reaching, and arm tackles aren't enough on that big guy.
He comes out for the moment. Thomas Rawls comes in, rookie out of Central Michigan, free agent. That's Rawls flanking Wilson and fakes the handoff, and that defense sticks with the quarterback, and Mike Neal is there to knock him down at the line of scrimmage.
Beautifully done by Mike Neal that time. Just sits right there on the line of scrimmage. He's just going to wait. He knew who he had, and he stays flat down the line of scrimmage. He was not fooled on that one, did not try and jump the gun. So now at least mission accomplished for Russell Wilson. He's getting those ends, those unblocked guys, to stay home on that read option.
Loss of 2 halfway through the quarter. Second down and 12. Fake it to Rawls. Wilson time, flushed out, keeps his eyes downfield, packs it in, and picks up the first down. Both guys just, they extend plays, improvise, pick up needed first downs. Right here, Russell Wilson, prime example.
You know, great players can sometimes take a mess and turn it into something great. There was really nothing there. And Russell Wilson just refused to take no for an answer. And there we go again. We've seen it so many times. Nate Palmer, one-on-one is one-on-none when you're talking about Russell Wilson running the football, and Seahawk player down.
Check it out when we come back. 7:12 to go in the fourth. When we went to commercial, J.R. Sweezy was the injured Seahawk, the right guard, but he got up, trotted off the field. Should be back shortly. He has to come out at least for one play. Alvin Bailey takes his spot. Marshawn Lynch is back in the game. It's first down. Oh, and it's dumped off and intercepted. Elliott, Jerome Elliott, and he fumbles the ball after he picks it off. So who has possession now?
Definitely a fumble. It's just a matter of who's going to come out of this scrum. What a great play, and then lose it on the back end of it.
Green Bay has it. Now Brett walks off the field with it. It says, how can they have it?
Take a look. Just going to be a simple little screen pass, and Jerome Elliott's just going to one-hand the thing out of midair, and then Gilliam's going to strip it away from him. I don't know what happened after that.
Well, clearly he fumbles, and who comes up with the ball at the bottom of that pile?
I don't know, but Justin Britt came walking out of it, and he certainly was right there.
So it's a turnover. They're reviewing it anyway, so you don't need a challenge. You should look at all turnovers, and there you had an initial turnover and then maybe a second one, but it's ruled, and you couldn't tell conclusively who wound up with Elliott's fumble, but they're going to give it to Green Bay, and they have the ball at the 37-yard line.
You love to see guys that work their way up through the ranks, and certainly that is Jerome Elliott. He was their second leading special teams guy a year ago.
Starks turns it into an 8-yard gain around the right side, tackled by Thomas. Flag on the play. It'll be second down and 2, and now you got a scrum. Got another flag coming in. I only see 3 flags on the field. Lang without his helmet. The old Keith Jackson line. A couple of teams that don't like each other very much.
Thought you were going to throw in a couple of big uglies there as well.
In the trenches. That right is number 50. Richard Rodgers is involved there, 82 as well.
Well, Richard Rodgers, I think, was going to get the flag if he didn't retaliate. Now it's probably going to offset. One poor official, he threw his flag, he threw his hat, he threw everything out there. But this, you're starting to feel the raw emotion of this rivalry, and there's nothing natural about this rivalry except where they've been two of the best teams for a while now, and they've played such important games. I think Aaron now is saying that it's going to offset.
Sarazore's had a lot of explaining to do tonight
We
for
have
these
fouls
penalties.
by both teams on the play. We have a dead ball personal foul. Defense, number 50. We also have a dead ball personal foul. Offense, number 70. We also have a dead ball personal foul. Defense, number 72. Those penalties are going to offset. However, the action by defense number 50 of pulling the face mask off of his opponent. Number 50 is ejected from the ball game. And it will be second down, Green Bay.
That is a big loss, KJ Wright. So even though Seattle had 2 penalties, Green Bay had 1, offsetting, but they lose Wright.
He didn't exactly take it off, but I guess he did everything but. But KJ Wright now is going to have to leave the field, and what he does and what Cam Chancellor does is a little bit of the same sort of play, and so now they're down 2 of those guys that can cover and play the run, and so now they're down to Kevin Pierre-Louis to come in, and they got to get this football back.
And that is a significant drop off. Second down and 2 with 6.5 left in the 4th. Starks and yeoman work tonight to the 24. Remember, Lacey got hurt early, ankle injury, out for the game. Their next game is in 8 days. They've got the extra day because they play the Monday nighter next week against Kansas City. Starks, meanwhile, 16 carries tonight for 87 yards.
Yeah, he really has done a nice job, don't you think? I mean, this is a good offensive line, and we understand that. But they had to establish a run against these pass rushers on the other side. And even with Eddie Lacy out, he has done enough to slow him down a bit.
Just to get the play off. And this time taken down behind the line of scrimmage. That's Jordan Hill, third-year back out of Penn State, who stops him.
That is some play by Jordan Hill, and that was he had a major impact at the end of last season. I think this is him coming all the way across here like that. But what did he have, like 5.5 sacks in the last 6 games, and then got hurt and wasn't able to take part in the playoffs. But he is an electric player, and if he can stay healthy this year, certainly adds a new dimension to that pass rush inside.
Backs up Brandon Meadbane up front. Second down and 11. Starks again. He'll take the ball to the 20-yard line. Rodgers milking the clock here. Hill again in on the tackle, clearly within field goal range, which would make it a 2-possession game. Third down.
We've seen good stuff tonight out of the center, Corey Lindsley, here too. He is a big, strong, physical presence, and with the 2 guards with Lang and Sitton outside of him, they really hold that pocket inside, which allows Aaron Rodgers to drop deep and then step up, because usually there's not a lot of penetration amongst those 3.
Rodgers taking the play clock all the way down, and then he takes a timeout. But he's able to take 40 ticks off the game clock. So timeout. Green Bay has 2. Looking at Seattle is down to 1. They've already used 2.5. When they get the ball back, 24-17, with a 3rd and 6 coming up. Last 3 games against the Seahawks. Take a look at his numbers. I mean, his numbers are fantastic across the board. normally that weren't in the NFC Championship game. He played that game, you'll recall, with that calf strain, as he did throughout the playoffs. Dallas the week before that. Tonight, back on target. 24 to 32 for 75%. MVP of the league last year.
You know, and ordinarily you'd say a field goal here and maybe it gets out of reach, but after we watched that championship game last year, I'm not sure I'll ever use the words out of reach again.
Not in this rivalry. Now you got Randall Cobb. Richard Rodgers in the backfield. Cobb comes into the slot on 3rd down and 6. And Rodgers fires, has his open man. 1st and goal. Catch is made by Ty Montgomery. He's at a big half.
Well, I've just got to talk about these guys one more time up front. I know they've got a backup in Barclay there, but this is an extremely talented group of pass rushers. But all night long now, they have provided enough time for Aaron Rodgers. And even when they missed, Aaron Rodgers has found ways to step up and through and around. Michael Bennett, the great pass rusher inside. They have just done a job. A very, very talented bunch up front.
And taking the play clock down to the nub on 1st and goal. And he has to take another timeout. So timeout Green Bay. They're now down to 1 with 3.5 to go. Rodgers had a couple of free plays tonight with offside against Seattle, and both times he decided, or on 2 of those occasions, to throw Sherman's way. 1 completion for 29, and then the big 52-yard penalty for pass interference against Sherman toward the end of the first half.
But the only 2 he threw that way was when he knew he had a free play. So J.C. Treader is an eligible receiver on the end of the line of scrimmage, number 73.
And Stark swinging to the outside, and he will get pushed back, kept in bounds. Taya Rubin came over as a free agent from Cleveland, makes the tackle. They'll be under 3 minutes when we have our next snap. Well, the Seattle Seahawks, each of the last 3 games, the NFC Championship game, the Super Bowl, and last week at the Rams, losing a 4th quarter lead, even though in the NFC Championship game they took the lead, lost it at the end, went to overtime, and in the past DeCurse won it. Super Bowl we all know about. Last week happened in St. Louis, and on the verge of maybe happening tonight. They were up 17-16 with the Seahawks at the end of 3. Starks again. Wagner stops him at the 4-yard line. Seattle with just that 1 timeout plus the 2-minute warning.
And this is when all those timeouts that get wasted early come back to haunt.
They take their final timeout right here. Then the next stoppage is the 2-minute warning. And they'll try to obviously hold them to a field goal, and then you've got possession. You'd be down 2 possessions. Of course, you'd be thinking about an onside kick if you scored. We all know what happened in Seattle.
Yep, a little bit of the same situation we saw a week ago. I think this is one of those you're in almost automatic field goal range, so don't be afraid to let Aaron Rodgers take a look and see if he finds something where he can throw the football, and if he doesn't, then, you know, don't throw it away and stop the clock. Just go ahead and take the sack and kick the field goal.
See, when has that happened before? So 3rd down and goal now. So Jones wide to the right. Adams is wide to the left. Green Bay again going empty backfield. Hawks again rush 4, and Rodgers takes off but can only get to the 3. So that's going to make it 4th down and goal. They're going to hold him to a field goal attempt, and that will come on the other side of the 2-minute warning.
That was another good play by Jordan Hill, I believe it was that time. Sort of took Lindsley right back into Aaron Rodgers. Had he not, I think Rodgers would have navigated that one for a touchdown.
So 2 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter with a field goal attempt coming up when we come back to Lambeau Field.
Time to win the fight on Sunday night.
So Mason Crosby will have a 21-yard field goal attempt, and for the Seattle Seahawks, if you've got a good kick block in that book, this is when you bring it out. Tim Mastay to hold. Trying to make it a 10-point 2-possession lead, and he does to make it 27-17. So you need 2 scores. They can come in either order, of course, because you're going to have an onside kick as well at some point and recover that. Rodgers, how's that for a fourth quarter? 9-9-9.
Always looks like he's under control, doesn't he? Just always sort of looks like he has it, the coolest guy in the room kind of a deal.
Yep.
It's hard to believe he sat there on draft day and watched the entire league pass on him.
And he never forgot about it either.
You know, that's a really good point. A lot of great players in this league have managed to carry a chip with them for a long time, and it serves them well.
And he always knows how to settle down the fan base as well. They got off to a bad start a couple of years ago. They went down for a Sunday night game in Houston. And the kick will push Lockett to the corner of the end zone. And he walked into the room and said to us, he said, hey, you know, outside the sky is falling, but inside we're just fine. And then last year when they started out 1-2, he goes on the radio and he says, RELAX, relax.
And he was right then too. I'll tell you, a little burst from Seattle offensively in the third quarter, but for the most part against this team, it's been a pretty good night for Dom Capers' bunch. There's the surprise to me, is that Jimmy Graham, I don't know that they quite have all the timing figured out and how to use him exactly yet, but I think in a game like this, you certainly would have hoped for more production from him.
3 receivers set to the right with Graham in the middle. And that pass is caught up at the 26-yard line. Doug Baldwin, short gain. Green Bay will give him all they want on those types of throws. Takes some time off the clock, makes it 2nd down and 3. Down to a minute 35 and ticking down. And that is caught up at the 43. That's a first down. No timeouts for them. Baldwin makes the catch. Wilson up at the 43-yard line, a minute 20 and under. Taking a lot of time here. And Wilson will take off. Get to the 49. Perry tackles him. They get into field goal range. They'll probably try the field goal first. Save a little bit of time and then try to get the onside kick, and then they'll have to score a touchdown.
I'm not sure the fan base here could take another onside kick, though.
Nope. 2nd down and 4. And he'll throw, and that's going to be caught by Lynch, but that clock keeps on moving as they don't use the sideline. Green Bay tries to take it away. 43. Now Wilson wants to get up there and spike it to save some time. And that'll stop the clock, but you're under a half minute to 29 seconds.
But I like your strategy. I think that you take another 10-yard play if you have it, and you try the field goal, hit the onside kick, and then throw a few Hail Marys.
Yep, that's the way to do it, but I think they got to think about using the sideline too. You got to stop that clock. Put 3 seconds back on it, so it's 32 seconds. 2nd down and 10. Fred Jackson in there. Lynch on the sideline. Wilson going over the middle. Now you got Jackson, and he loses the ball. And that's going to write a finish to it.
There's your hero.
Yep, Elliott knocked it out. He had the interception, then he knocked it out. And that's going to put a wrap on it.
Well, there's nothing that defensive coordinators like better than hustle winning a game. Jaron Elliott was on the pass rush, turned and hustled back down the field, stripped the football out. Thank you very much. Game over. The tomahawk chop. They practice this. Every team does. And when you can gain from behind on a running back and they don't see it coming, almost impossible to prevent that from happening. Here was the interception that happened earlier. Pretty special night for that young man.
Well, last year, because Seattle won on opening night, they owned a head-to-head tiebreaker with Green Bay. Dallas, Green Bay, and Seattle all wound up 12-4. This year, Green Bay will own that tiebreak by virtue of this win tonight. So the Packers go to 2-0. The Seahawks will go home to face Chicago and Detroit the next 2 weeks. They're on this NFC North tour, are 0-2.
I'll tell you, for Mike McCarthy, who was so confident going into that championship game, he really thought they had him wired. To lose that one was the ultimate heartbreak. Not a full measure of revenge, but it has to feel pretty good.